Aloha everybody, Kaiwaza with you, and welcome back to my channel. And today we do a kind of a special record video. This actually was suggested to me by Mr. Kane Manakura, and I thought it was a great suggestion, which is that we are looking at, not at Santo and Johnny, which was a very famous brother act in the 50s, kind of through the 70s, that did the very famous song Sleepwalk, but the imitation groups that came up after them, sort of trying to imitate what they were doing. And if you like the music of Santo and Johnny, which if you have stumbled across this video, I'm assuming you probably do, I would also invite you to check out the Facebook page, Santo and Johnny Appreciation Society, where there is plenty of discussion and videos about Santo and Johnny and following their music. So I'll just do a little quick introduction here about Santo and Johnny. Santo, I say Santo, I don't know, Santo and Johnny. That's them right there, two brothers from Brooklyn, and they were taught actually Hawaiian guitar. Their father wanted them to learn Hawaiian guitar at a youngish age, and they took to it and eventually formed a duo where the one played steel guitar and the other played the, I would say regular guitar, electric guitar, whatever. And their hit, Sleepwalk, I imagine most people recognize it when they hear it, even if they don't know the song, because it's a very, very famous song and has been redone by so many people. Redone, but never really topped, I don't think. And not only that, they actually recorded it at least 2 more times in their career, different versions of it. Once in, like, I don't know, I think it was the 70s, I don't know, once in Italy also. So they actually even re-recorded their own song with different versions. By way of introduction, my first introduction to Santo and Johnny, I didn't know who they were, but as a little kid, my aunt Betty Hoffman in Pennsylvania had this record offshore that I used to play when I would go to visit them. And to this day, this is my favorite Santo and Johnny record. I think it's just absolutely beautiful. The arrangements are gorgeous. I love the chorus on it. Yeah, I know some people this isn't their favorite Santo and Johnny album, but it's absolutely to this day my favorite, and not just for sentimental reasons, because I am a very sentimental person, and a lot of times I tend to I can't disassociate my sentimentality from the content or the music, but in this case I definitely can, and I can tell you this still to this day, I think this is my favorite Santo and Johnny album. Of course, they did a Hawaiian album. They did learn Hawaiian music first, and then they started doing their own thing. Santo, the song Sleepwalk was a huge, not just in America, international, worldwide hit, was #1 many places. Santo and Johnny just continued recording. This is on a different label later on. They continued, they toured in Europe. They had huge success in Europe with Godfather theme, which was #1 for like 20-something weeks in Italy. And they actually did a lot of recording in Italy. This is one of those records, the gold records. It's kind of hard to see. But which, by the way, has my favorite song of Santo and Johnny's ever, which is Sea Dream. I just love the song Sea Dream. It's my favorite song that they've ever done. And in Europe, they continued to record more through the 70s. I have about, I don't know, like 25 records by them. Then there's also a whole bunch of these kind of records, which I think are just like compilations of their stuff, you know, reissued and re-put out. So they continued recording in through the 70s in Italy, and had hits. I mean, they were always popular in America, but I think they probably, you know, overall had better album sales in Europe later on, and they continued to record there. Great stuff, all with the steel guitar. Hawaiian steel guitar is the lead instrument. Now, of course, when somebody is successful, there are going to be imitations, particularly by budget labels or cheaper kind of rip-off record companies that would intentionally try to market something as something else. And we're going to look at some of those here today, and I'm going to try and not make this a hugely long video, but I'm already 5 minutes in. Okay, the first one we're going to talk about is on an American budget label called Diplomat. And I knew this record. I knew the group is called the Sleepwalk Guitars of Dan and Dale. Although they never recorded Sleepwalk, they're called the Sleepwalk Guitars of Dan and Dale. Trying to make you think it's Santo and Johnny without really, thinking about it. Now, I had this record right here as a little kid. Before I knew who Santo and Johnny was, I knew who Dan and Dale were. This is the record I had as a kid. Loved this record, and to this day, I do enjoy this record. Probably a lot for sentimental reasons, but I still love this record. And now they recorded, it's kind of a similar sound, right? It's a steel guitar and then, rhythm guitar, and sometimes an organ, sometimes a little bit of a backup orchestra or whatever. They had a variety of setups, but the steel guitar lead instrument was in all of these to a point. I'm just showing you a few. There were a million Dan and Dale records, like 30. This one I was really happy to find for 50 cents at a sale one time, because usually it's kind of expensive, this one, and hard to find. Theme from Thunderball, the Sleepwalk Guitars of Dan and Dale. I'm just showing you some. Now, at some point in this process, they dropped the Sleepwalk from their name and started calling themselves the Sensational Guitars of Dan and Dale. I don't know whether there was perhaps litigation involved in that decision, or they just decided maybe Sleepwalk was not as hot as it had once been or something, and they could just kind of branch off with a different name. I don't know, but it became the Sensational Guitars of Dan and Dale, and there were probably 10 or 15 records released with that name. And actually there were a couple at one point where they dropped the steel guitar all together, and it was just like a small combo of like a guitar and sometimes an accordion. It's very odd. But anyway, yeah, lots of records by Dan and Dale, and and they are readily available. I think you find them occasionally at thrift stores across America. Now let's look at another group. These guys make me laugh. They are from Italy, and in fact all of the remaining groups I'm going to show you are all from Italy, where I think Santo and Johnny probably had their greatest success later on in their career, recording many albums through the 70s and spawning these imitation groups in Italy. John and Jerry and their Hawaiian Guitars. Volume 1. Now, I learned, I hadn't really looked them up on Discogs, but today I actually did. I knew I had Volume 1 and 3, so I knew there was a Volume 2, and I just ordered and got a Volume 2. But really researching a little bit, I've discovered there's at least 9 volumes, and they all have this picture on it. They all have the same cover. They just sort of changed the color, like it's blue in some and green in some, but they use this picture in all of them. I thought this one was kind of interesting, this Volume 3, because it's specifically San Remo 68 Film Festival. So I guess these are all songs that were in the San Remo Film Festival. And this album in particular is a little bit odd because it's all very, very short songs. The songs are all like 60 seconds long. Very strange. I don't know what the idea there was. If you've never heard of John and Jerry, but you have heard or do have some recordings by this group here, the Coconados, I can tell you that they're the same people. Coconados also did like a dozen records or so, and it's the same steel guitarist, and in fact the whole group is the same, I think, because they all are just this small combo of like the steel guitar, rhythm guitar, and an organ. That's what they are, all of them. So I would like to get some more John and Jerry records, but Yeah, they're in Italy. It's kind of hard to, the shipping is bad, or shipping is expensive. So when I get them for cheap, I will be able to get them, but it has to be like a bunch of them. Somebody has to have a bunch of them for cheap, and I can combine the shipping. But anyway, coconados I also have a lot of. If you have coconados, you don't really have to have John and Jerry. If you just want to hear it, they are the same. And they all do the same thing. It's like covers of pop songs. They're not Hawaiian songs. They're covers of popular songs. Another imitation group out of Italy I just recently learned about was Django and Bonnie off of Joker, which is a budget label out of Italy. They have several albums. I just found a seller that had 4 of them, happened to have 4 of them pretty cheap, so I got all 4 with the shipping, because shipping in Italy is crazy expensive to get. So, Guitar Romantica by Django and Bonnie. Now, the name really makes me laugh because, obviously, like Santo and Johnny, you have the 2 names together and they're trying to play off Django Reinhardt and Bonnie Guitar, I'm sure, is what they were doing, because you would think, well, Django Reinhardt was the guitarist, jazz guitarist, and Bonnie Guitar was somewhat well known, and so you put them together, and if you're not really thinking about it, and you're someplace and going, it's Django and Bonnie, you know them, they have that Sleepwalk song, those 2 guitars, it's great. This one, I got this one too. These guys are nice. I would say these are definitely better than John and Jerry or the Coconados to me. A little more arranged. There's a full orchestra on all these records, and it's a little classier sounding. I like it. The group I really love, though, imitation group, this will make you laugh. Santo and Domingo. This is great. It's great stuff. This record is awesome, and they only did 1. I don't know why. 2 Hawaiian guitars. Why did they only do 1 record? Because it's so good. I like it as well or better than some of the Santo and Johnny albums. Great arrangements on here. Nice. What's it called? Barcarolle. Yeah, the Tales of Hoffman Barcarolle. Harborg lights, you gotta love it instead of harbor lights. But yeah, this is a great album, and I wish that they had done more, but there's no more that I've ever seen or come across. Then I'll mention quickly, not really an imitator, but who is Andy Bono, also from Italy, who did many Hawaiian steel guitar albums, covers like Santo and Johnny and these guys, of like movie themes and pop songs, a lot of them European pop songs. And he did at least, I think 6. I have 6 or 7 records by him. I can't show you all of them because most of them have nudity on them. But the one I want to show you is the imitation, or Andy Bono, in the style of Santo and Johnny. I have to be careful with this cover. I didn't want to take it out of the cover because it's paper, so it's very volatile, and it's also not something I can really show you. But this is Andy Bono covering songs that Santo and Johnny did, and it's pretty good also too. Now, question remains to me that I want to know. Okay, so this made total sense to me, like the American budget label doing imitation Santo and Johnny records, Dan and Dale. This made total sense. My question is, and it's a sincere question for discussion, we can discuss amongst ourselves, why did none of the other budget labels in America, who always jumped on the bandwagon to cash in on these kind of things, why did nobody else do a Santo and Johnny rip-off group? Why? I mean, like, they were around at the time period. Here's Spinorama, Crown, could have done this, because they did it all the time. They would take like a Billy Muir, who was a popular guitarist at the time, so they got some cheapo recordings of his, like, ooh, Billy Muir, but then half the record is actually just generic Hawaiian steel guitar tracks that they had that they could use however they wanted to. And so you got, partially Billy Muir, and then you got all this other stuff, and I'm like, why didn't they do it? Winecoat, I think about too. This particular label, why did they not do some sort of, imitation group and call it like, Santa and Giovanni or whatever? You could call it just anything like that. Just get, surely they could have obtained some garage recording or collectively, like somebody put together a recording of Sleepwalk. It didn't have to be great, just a recording of Sleepwalk that they could have bought the rights to and then slopped it on with their million Hawaiian tracks, because they had a million Hawaiian tracks, these budget labels by different groups that they interspersed and interchanged and called them all different names, and all they had to do was just say Sleepwalk by Santa and Giovanni, and then throw these other songs on there with it. Particularly, I think of the Kaiwaza recordings. I know that's my YouTube channel name, but it's these 4 songs, if you've ever heard them: Lilac and Spanish Moss, Wild, Bird of Paradise, Hawaiian Holiday, that are great. That would have been, if you'd have put a version of Sleepwalk with those tracks, totally in sync with the vibe. Why didn't Winecoat or Crown or even the super budgety guys like, Palace or Sutton or whoever was around at that time, why did they not just get, or even if they couldn't get it, why didn't they just make up like Dan and Dale? Why didn't they just say the Sleepwalk guitars of Santa and Clarita, make up something? That's a sincere question, and I don't know what the answer is, and I would love to know why. There must be a reason why. Maybe they just could never get a version of Sleepwalk or something. But I don't know why they didn't use the name. Or sounding like Sleepwalk. You could have done the Sleep Talk guitars of, Santa and Giovanni. That's my group, Santa and Giovanni. That's what I think. Anyway. That's it. I hope you enjoyed that. If you like it, please give a thumbs up. If you like this kind of music, check out my Hawaiian hi-fi radio station on live365.com, where we do play plenty of Santo and Johnny and plenty of the Imitators as well. That will be linked below. We'll talk to you later and have a good week.